Correspondent for the Royals and Entertainment at The Telegraph, for India McTaggart, and the presenter and writer Matthew Stan in India. Matthew, good Sunday morning to you. Thanks for being with us. Let's get straight into it, and we'll start with you, India, in the front of The Telegraph. There was always going to be more shoes to drop on this, and now we're finding out more and more detail about what was known when. Take us through this reporting.
Yes, so this splash is basically saying that the Prime Minister appointed Lord Mandelson as ambassador to the US without properly vetting his links to Epstein. So Whitehall sources are now attempting to sort of pin the blame on the Foreign Office, saying that their evaluation wasn't stringent enough, surprisingly, because the vetting process by the Foreign Office ought to have been completely forensic, given that his association with Epstein was widely known, and also given his previous political controversies. So these revelations just continue to raise further questions about Keir Starmer's judgment. Now there's growing disquiet among MPs about his leadership. Why did Keir Starmer choose to defend Mandelson at PMQs? Why did he say full due process had been done when it clearly hasn't? And what did he know about the emails? So apparently there's already an Operation Save Keir going on.
It's like a Save Big Dog. It's back with Sir Keir. What do you make of all this, Matthew? Because
it's a pretty good summary there, right there. Right. To add to it, if we sort of step back here, this is a tough time for the Prime Minister. So he had this reset, didn't he, immediately after the summer recess, and I had been critical, and I'm coming from roughly the sort of centre-left, so I voted for Labour at the last election. I want them to do well. I hope everyone wants them to do well. There's no doubt it's been a tough first year. It was a tough summer, and I'd been critical of them just at the end of the recess, for, in my view, having allowed a space for reform, a party with 4 MPs, to dominate some of the headlines. So they come back, not in response to my tweet, I should hasten to add, but they come back and they have a reset. And then Angela Rayner resigns, and you could argue that that was entirely out of Starmer's control, although he was in the embarrassing position of defending her at PMQs as he went on to defend Mandelson, and then she resigns. And then the Mandelson story hits, and this is a much more serious story for Starmer because he was very much involved in it. He was the man who ultimately appointed someone who we all knew had been pretty good friends with a paedophile, a convicted paedophile, and I'm not sure that we all knew that he'd stayed friends with Epstein, although it had been suggested in 2019 that he had stayed at his house after his conviction.
When he was in prison, absolutely.
Now, from what I've been hearing on the radio this morning, it suggested that in answer to one of the Prime Minister's 3 questions that we're being told he asked by this Downing Street source, Mandelson, I think, may have said he didn't stay in Epstein's house. So there is some fog over this.
Economical with the truth.
But standing back from it all, I was astonished when Starmer appointed him as ambassador in the first place, because you're appointing someone to our most senior, in many ways, in the field, diplomatic role, who is known to have been friends with someone who went on to be convicted as a paedophile, even if we didn't know whether he was still friends with him after the conviction or not. It was always such a high-risk strategy. The reason he did it, presumably, was because he thought he would be very effective in bridging the divide that we all know must exist between Starmer and Trump. And I think he has been, or he was, effective in that. But it was a high-risk strategy, and it has come back to bite the Prime Minister very seriously.
I mean, the argument would be that Karen Pierce, who was in place before, had a good relationship with the Trump administration, so there's probably no need to make the change. And speaking to Douglas Alexander about this just a couple of days ago, the judgment was made that it would be that closeness that was the reason why they made the decision, outweighing the fact that Mandelson was friends with a convicted paedophile. So the judgment question, I think, probably remains in place, and they're going to try and work their way up to this mini recess and not have too much more trouble.
And we've got the Trump visit coming, of course.
Right.
So it's not... I mean, this is never good timing, but it's not perfect timing, to say the least.
They're going to try and probably keep away from any news conferences where that's all we're going to be asking. All right, let's move on to this on the front of The Observer. I mean, it's a striking front page, actually. I think if we can bring it up in the wall already. I don't know when the last time The Observer had a black front page like that. I haven't seen it like that for a long time. Take us to the report, Matthew.
Yeah, well, very briefly, and I think you'll touch on this as well, but this is effectively Britain's most notorious sort of far-right activist in the shape of Tommy Robinson, and let's call him what he is, because the Overton window, to use that terrible phrase, can shift as much as it wants, but Tommy Robinson is a far-right activist. And here we have...
Stephen Yaxley led him.
That's his real name. And here we have on the front page of The Observer, Elon Musk, one of the richest men, the richest man in the world, is he, and one of the most powerful because of his ownership of X, endorsing Tommy Robinson. And Tommy Robinson's sort of, not rehabilitation in public life, because I don't think he's likely ever to achieve that, but his prominence in public life now is thanks in no small part to the fact that Elon Musk allowed him back on to a platform from which he had been banned. And I would suggest one of the direct consequences of that is we saw between 110,000 and 150,000 people out on the streets yesterday, which they're fully entitled to do so long as they are not violent, and some of them were. But what's really, really chilling about this, and I'm going to just read some of Elon Musk's own words, is that he came as close as you can to, I think, incite violence without inciting it directly. In addressing this rally, because he addressed it virtually, this is a message, he said, to the reasonable centre, his words, the people who ordinarily wouldn't get involved in politics, who just want to live their lives. They don't want that. They're quiet. They just go about their business. My message is to them, if this continues, that violence is going to come to you. You will have no choice. You're in a fundamental situation here. Whether you choose violence or not, violence is coming to you. You either fight back or you die. That's the truth, I think. And this is in the aftermath of the horrific killing of Charlie Kirk, the right-wing activist in America, which should be condemned by everyone on the left, the centre and the right and so forth. There is no place for political violence in our society or indeed in American society. But what Musk appears to be doing here is using that as a way to threaten people, not just in America but in Britain, and say, look, you've got this far-left enemy out there, you've got to rise up, and that is extremely dangerous.
I mean, it's not the first time he's spoken at a political rally. He spoke for the AFD as well, didn't he, over the summer? I mean, what do you make of what we've seen? We haven't got loads of time, but we can bring up, I think, the Times front page as well, which has another pretty striking picture.
Which also uses his words and sort of reaffirms the point that Matthew's just making, that fight back or die language. If the fight comes to you, you don't have a choice. I mean, it is incendiary, this language. But I'm not surprised that he was asked to speak at this rally and that he chose to speak at this rally. He's been very outspoken about what he sees as freedom of speech issues in the UK and the hot-button issue of immigration. And a lot of these people were out yesterday because they say they have reached breaking point over this issue and they want to, as they say, unite the kingdom again. But yes, violence obviously cannot be tolerated.
No. There's been a robust police response. There are going to be more arrests coming, I think. But actually, I think there is another rally planned as well.
I don't think we should write off everyone on that rally necessarily as far right, but everyone on that rally went on a rally that was organised by a prominent far-right activist.
It's an elegant way of putting it. All right, we haven't got loads of time. Quick thought, if you want, on the Express. I mean, really, really quick. Someone, as Rachel Reeves is probably under pressure.
This just fits into the Starmer crisis scenario, because there is this suggestion that he's building up his own economic team within Number 10. The problem is, if he gets close to this budget and if it's as unpopular as it might be, then he can't distance himself from it.
With it, isn't it? All right, guys, thank you very much. Sorry to rush you at the end. We're going to have more from you, hopefully, in the next hour. All right, we'll be back after this short break with our top stories. Stay with us.
Hear that whistle and that